So Gordon Wintrob, thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to get to know you and learn more about your company and your startup and what you're all working on at Newfront. And maybe even more than anything, we're certainly excited that you are really the inaugural founder as part of our brand new Spotlight interview series that we are running in conjunction with the Atlassian for Startups program. And so before we dive into anything about Newfront. Bridget and I would just love to get to know you a little bit. And if you could just tell us a little bit about who you are, what your role is, and what Newfront is all about, that would be awesome.
Sounds great. Yeah, thanks, Phil, and thanks, Bridget. It's definitely an honor to get to participate and be a part of it. I'm Gordon Wintrob. I'm the co-founder and CTO at Newfront. We're building the modern insurance brokerage. So we're building a software platform that supercharges insurance brokers and helps them deliver a better experience to our clients. And we started the company in 2017, and today we're a little over 800 people, and we help clients really across every industry across the US, but our focus has always been on tech and life sciences. So we work with about 20% of US unicorns. I imagine have a lot of clients that are probably some of the big users of Atlassian.
That's awesome. And, we definitely do want to hear how Newfront is using Atlassian, what kind of value your teams are deriving from our products every day, and how it's actually helping you ship and deliver value for your customers. But before we do any of that, Bridget has some of the hard-hitting questions for you. So I'm going to turn it over to her so we can get to know you just a little bit better before we dive into all the stuff related to products and business, Gordon.
Sounds
Yeah.
great.
Yes, good to get all the hard-hitting questions out of the way. The first one that we have for you, Gordon, is where are you from?
So that's a tough one. I grew up in LA in Southern California, and then I went to school in Boston, and now I'm here in the Bay Area.
Nice. And so in the Bay Area, are you a coffee drinker? Are you a tea drinker?
Definitely a coffee drinker. It's definitely an addiction at this point where no, I don't have a morning without coffee. It's like the world doesn't start until that happens.
Newfront runs on caffeine. This is good to know.
That's right.
Finally, for this lightning style round, beach or mountains?
Oh, I've got to say mountains. Even though I grew up in LA and you're probably thinking, surfing, the beach, I really love going out in the mountains. I'm a big trail runner. I'm actually about to run a 100-kilometer race this weekend.
Whoa.
So that's mountains are top of mind for me.
Oh my gosh. I'm happy we're speaking to you before the race so that we're capturing peak taper Gordon instead of
Yeah,
post 100 kilometers.
that's right.
Amazing. Amazing. All right, over to Phil for the softballs.
Thanks, Bridget. Yeah, for the softballs, exactly. Thank you so much, and thanks for answering those, Gordon. So you told us a little bit about what Newfront does, so I don't necessarily think you need to repeat yourself, but I'd like to ask that question slightly differently. You said the company was founded in 2017. What problem did you set out to solve, and what problem do you continue to pursue solving for your customers today?
Yeah, in some ways, it's kind of funny that the mission of the company has stayed very consistent from the beginning. It was really informed by spending a lot of time with insurance professionals, kind of just being a fly on the wall and seeing that a fraction of their day is spent on the really high value client focused work, right? Talking through claims and risk management, where is your business heading? And then a ton of their time was spent on back office administrative tasks, filling out forms, sending emails. And it was so clear that this whole industry has not modernized. They're doing things in 2024 the same way it's always been done since probably 40 years ago. I mean, a lot of pen and paper and stuff living in physical filing cabinets. And so it's clear that by combining the best of really experienced insurance professionals with world-class technologists who are really good at building software, you can build this special kind of company that uses humans for what they're great at and computers for what they're great at.
Really cool. That's awesome. And I think that, the next question, if it's okay, is I'd love to actually sort of understand, how Atlassian is actually helping you do that. For those who maybe it's not obvious, Newfront is an Atlassian customer. And I appreciate, Gordon, that, where you sit on the executive team, it might not necessarily be day to day, but I am curious, what Atlassian tools does Newfront use on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, we're big Atlassian fans. In particular, we're big users of Jira. So for all of our task tracking and milestone tracking for our technology development teams, that lives in Jira. So when we have a big project, it'll get broken down into different milestones. Different tasks will get assigned to different team members. We also spoke a little bit before about we use it for a lot of kind of our internal operations, things like when people have IT tickets or there's maybe bugs in the product, that gets submitted through a Jira help desk and then can get assigned to individual team members. We can figure out, okay, how many tickets are getting opened each month, what's working well, where there are clearly issues where we need to improve things. So those are some of the ways that we leverage Jira.
That's awesome. And I guess another question is, this might go back to even sort of, the 2017, 2018 period, but if you can remember, Gordon, why did your team choose Atlassian tools? I mean, you've done a really awesome job articulating sort of the value you guys get from using a tool like Jira every day, but, why did you guys pick Atlassian?
Yeah, we went through what I think is a pretty typical arc of a high growth startup where you start doing something in a spreadsheet and you push that spreadsheet until it no longer loads. So initially for task tracking, we had a crazy spreadsheet where there are different owners and assignments, and eventually that just fell over. We had no reporting, no analytics. It was very hard to communicate across the team. And we knew we needed kind of more of an enterprise product that could really support our growth. And around that time, we hired a more experienced VP of engineering. And I think when that happened, we sort of went through that growing up experience of, hey, let's get a professional tool. And Jira was really seen as the best in class for that.
That's awesome. And so, translating that maybe into my own words, not necessarily yours, Gordon, is it safe to say that a tool like Jira or just Atlassian tools more broadly has helped Newfront scale from maybe the earliest days to sort of a growth stage now?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one of those, there's different phases in a company, and early on, you're always going to be focused on just talking to lots of customers and making sure you have a clear product market fit. But then as you're sort of that the product is getting more and more complex, the team is growing, you have more of these sort of internal communication challenges that you need tools and processes to work through.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And to close us out on this section of the interview, Gordon, the last question I guess I have is a little more forward thinking. Are you guys incorporating AI into any of your workflows, Atlassian or otherwise workflows for that matter, to deliver better customer experiences and deliver more value, whether that's quicker time to value, more complex value, et cetera? I'd love to understand sort of what Newfront is doing on that in that frontier as well.
Yeah, AI has definitely been a huge part of our roadmap. You can think of an insurance brokerage as essentially this data processing factory, right? Where we have all this unstructured data out in the world about things like risk and the insurance markets. And it's our job to sort of package that all up, restructure it, and make sense of it all. And so large language models have been a huge accelerator for us. I mean, building things like our contract review product is a great example of, our clients deal with lots of these third-party contracts, and typically they would send those contracts to us to review and figure out what are the insurance requirements? Do I have the right plan? Do I have the right policies in place? We now have this LLM-powered product where you can drag in a contract and instantly get a review and compare it against your program. And it's a great example of something where, previously we were doing something very manually. There was a lot of email back and forth, a lot of time. And now thanks to AI, we can take some of those workflows and make them just dramatically faster.
That's awesome. And more out of curiosity, I suppose, are any of those productivity gains, have you leveraged Atlassian tools to sort of either track that, to even get further productivity gains? Is there any integration, I guess, where you're leveraging AI as part of Atlassian workflows internally?
That's a good question. We certainly are using Jira for tracking those projects and figuring out, okay, what are we building this quarter? What are the future milestones? I haven't thought as much about how to integrate it more directly, but there probably are a lot of cool ways. Even something as simple as let's look at all of our IT related tickets internally. What are people having issues with, and maybe using an LLM to summarize some of that and prioritize the biggest areas to improve.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that opens the door for a part 2 interview in a few months. So whether you intended to or not, thank you. We'll have to follow up with you now to find out how that all goes in the future. But
Sounds
no,
good.
thank you. I really appreciate you pulling the curtain back a little bit and helping both us and then anyone else watching this, how Newfront leverages Atlassian tools. It's really encouraging to hear. To bring us home, Bridget, could I turn it back to you, or would you like me to kind of wrap us up?
I've got it.
Go for
We'd
it.
love to wrap up a little bit about, talking a little bit about culture. And Gordon, I'm just curious before I ask some questions about Atlassian values, does Newfront have any sort of values that the company lives by?
Yeah, we really think that having strong values and a sense of company culture is a huge differentiator for us. I mean, if you look at legacy insurance brokerages, they kind of it's a dusty industry, and building a great culture that's very people focused is just not a thing that's out there. I think about our first core value is actually focus on people, and it's this idea that we are building technology to empower people and not replace them, and that really goes into everything that we do. How are we thinking about learning and development? How are we prioritizing our product roadmap? We always keep that focus on people front and center.
I love that. Newfront seems really revolutionary, both in terms of getting rid of the pen and paper work and, unlocking people's potential so that they can focus on the things they're really good at. So to end the interview with an Atlassian value question, can you tell me how Newfront does one of the following things? How do they play as a team? How do they not F the customer? And how do they build with heart and balance?
What was the last one?
How do you build with heart and balance?
Heart and balance. I like those. Was the first one, how do you work as a team?
Yeah, how do you play as a team?
How do you play as a team? That one definitely resonates with our value around focus on people. I think a really great example of that is we have this tradition on our engineering team called crossing the aisle. And it comes from our first office. We just had 2 rows of desks. So one side was technology, right? It was a couple engineers. And the other side was insurance and operations. And so if there was ever a question, someone could say, hey, look, I'm confused here. And you could just swivel your chair and cross the aisle. And it was great when we're all in one office. But then as the company grew and you have multiple teams and now we're all distributed across the US, it's a little bit harder. But we try to keep that tradition alive. Whenever a new engineer joins the team, we have a dedicated crossing the aisle session where we'll do a shadow session with a team member, and that engineer or that product manager will just be a fly on the wall, just kind of sit next to them virtually in Zoom and ask questions, bounce ideas. And I think some of our best product ideas actually come from those sessions. It's pretty eye-opening.
That's awesome. Not only do I love the literal, like pit swivel chair, like cross the aisle, I love the metaphor. I totally appreciate that, especially given that I can imagine, as you just alluded to, Gordon, that in the earliest days and even today, you've got the subject matter experts, let's say non-tech, and then the technical folks. And I even think there's like a nice play on words of like crossing the political aisle and this and that. Like, I think that's awesome. And I think that, considering that that's all about teamwork and collaboration, I think that's a really uplifting note to end on. If I may say so, Gordon, again, thank you so much for coming on and joining us, teaching us a little bit more about Newfront, helping people understand how a startup like yours leverages Atlassian tools. And beyond that, we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Philip. Thanks, Bridget. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.